it's on live right now, so just FYI. You guys will get started in a few minutes. So get yourself comfy and some water and your mat set up. If you have blocks, you might want to grab your blocks. If you have a bolster or a blanket that you want to roll up. If you don't have blocks, you can really use anything that's just going to give your body a little extra space. So a book or a water bottle or, you know, pots and pans you have in your kitchen, whatever you got. They can just be used to give a little stability. And if you are going to listen along to a playlist, you can choose your own, or you can go on my Spotify. It's just Chrissy Vaccaro on Spotify, and you can just search for Lunar Flow 4220 and press play when I give you the cue, and have a nice little playlist to chill out to. See some of my pals coming up on here. Hi Grace, hi Jill, hi Lauren. Everybody here? Okay, sound wise? Hopefully. Thumbs up. Hi guys. All right, we'll get started. So, if you're just joining, make sure you have a couple blocks. If you don't have blocks, you can use water bottles or anything that just gives you a little bit of a help to reach the ground, essentially. Think of it as extensions of your arms. Bolster would be helpful, or a blanket you can roll up and use for when we do some more poses on the ground. Oh, I'm so excited to see you too, Cam. Hi. And let's just get started. You know, it's been how many days now of this, and it's not easy on anyone. So what we practice in our yoga practice and our meditation practice is just so important to really stick with right now. So if you have a playlist that you want to queue up soon, just have that ready. Otherwise, you can use the Lunar Flow 4220 if you'd like to practice along to that. Lucy is upstairs today, so she will not be joining during practice. She's busy. But we'll get started. So come onto your mats, and once you come into a nice, easy child's pose, we'll actually start there. So knees wide, toes together, reach your fingers forward, bring your forehead into the mat. You conversely could use a block under your forehead or make one potato, two potato with your fists if you need a little help getting down to the ground. It's going to cue up the music, so if you'd like your music on. And take a couple rounds of breath here in your child's pose. Really send the hips back and your fingers forward. So you're really reaching far and making lots of space in your spine. That said, think about dropping your your shoulders away from your ears. So relaxing through the shoulders. Even though you're reaching forward, you're sending your heart forward and your hips back. And take a couple of breaths here in your child's pose. And it feels just so nice sometimes to be able to come back down to the earth in child's pose. As you breathe, think about filling your lungs in all four directions. So to the side, forward and down. Maybe start to rock your third eye a little bit side to side. Just a little bit of a massage in the forehead center. Probably lots and lots of thoughts going through your mind at all times during this. So for the next hour or so, letting those thoughts go to the side. You can think about them later. You can come back into stillness. And from here, let's walk our hands off the right side of the mat. So you're really stretching through the side body. With the fingers reaching off to one side, your opposite hip is really going to press down so you can get into the side body here. Come back through the center and walk your hands off the left side of your mat, and this time really press the right hip down. Opening along the right side of the body. Keep letting the lungs completely fill. As you exhale back out, squeeze the air back out. So grateful for the breath. And coming back into center. Back to your child's pose. See if you can relax your shoulders away from your ears again. From here, we're going to begin to slink forward onto our bellies. So just crawl yourself forward, extend your legs long behind you, come into a Sphinx pose. So stacking your shoulders over your elbows. Your elbows might come a little forward even of your shoulders. You don't want to be crunched down, but rather very broad in the chest and the heart. From here, drop your chin towards your chest. Press your hands into the mat. Feel as you engage your hands and your elbows as you pull that energetically towards you. Heart goes forward even more. And now just begin to rock your head from side to side, making half circles. You might even start to make full circles. Come back to stillness and find a nice neutral position for your head. From here, let's gently bring the forehead down into the mat. You'll bring your arms out to your side in a T. So stretching the right fingers, your left, either side, I'm mirroring you, trying to mirror you. Your fingers on your right side, really reaching them forward, out to the side. And then bring your hand in toward your belly or your ribs, rolling onto your right side. So you're stretching through your shoulder blade. If this doesn't feel like anything, that arm that's in the mat, you can cactus that arm and you'll feel a bigger stretch. So take a couple of breaths. You might step your top foot behind you. Come back through center. Find that neutral place. Stretch your other hand out, whichever hand you haven't done so far. You might cactus the arm. And then roll onto the other side. Your top leg might step behind you. And come back to center. Bring your hands into the mat right by your ribs. And that same action of pressing hands in, keeping elbows toward your sides, push the heart forward as you pull the hands back just a little bit. Come into a baby cobra, and then just push your way back up. Come into a tabletop. Stack your hips over your knees, shoulders right over your wrists, fingers spread wide, index fingers facing forward. Imagine as if you're turning two knobs away from each other so that you feel the spiral of your arms. So it's outer rotation that's happening in the elbow creases of your arms. And Kathleen's on here, we like to say elbow pits. Make sure they're coming toward the front of the room, front of your mat, whichever side that is. See, there's no more fronts and backs and any of that stuff. It's all just, it's whatever you want. So from here, let's find some cat-cow. You can tuck your toes or not, but inhale, drop your belly, really press the hands away from you energetically, and then as you exhale rather, and pull the hands energetically back towards you, cat through the spine. Find a few movements here. Flexion and extension. Lubricating each one of those vertebrae. Come back to neutral spine. Feel yourself grow really long in your spine now. So the head and the heart are really stretching in one direction and your hips in the opposite direction. So you find this nice long length. And just take a moment to sort of take a snapshot of that with your sensory organs. So how does it feel? How does it feel to have that length in your spine? And then from here, we're just going to come to a kneeling seated position. So toes can stay tucked if you want for a little bit more of an intense pose, or you can just come into a simple kneeling position. If you want to come to Virasana, if you practice that hero's pose, you can as well. But we'll just take a sitting meditation for a moment, just to kind of arrive here. You know, we're in the same space pretty much, all of us, all the time right now. So differentiating between our yoga practice versus our workspace gets hard. So take a moment, and we'll bring our hands actually to Pushpanjali Mudra. So this is the offering of flowers, and it's just the two edges of your hands come together, and it's a beautiful mudra or seal, an offering. And it's also this beautiful gesture of receiving. So thinking right now, as you take a few breaths with your back nice and straight, your shoulders stacked over your hips, your belly engaged. Think about what you are offering. What can you offer in this time to yourself, to others, to the world as a collective? And then a little bit of an intention working here. This is a lunar flow. A lunar flow is the counterpart to the Surya, or the sun salutation. It's a little bit more of a relaxing, cooling, meditative practice. So kind of opening up this third eye space, imagining whatever comes in there right now as an intention of how you can offer. Think about that. Let it be placed into your hands. And then once you feel yourself putting that intention into your hands, bring the palms of your hands together, pull the hands into the chest, Anjali Mudra, the seal of connection. Allow your breath to slow, to be big and expansive, but to slow in its speed. Blink your eyes open. And we'll come back, we'll meet in this tabletop position again. So stacking the shoulders over the wrists and your hips over your knees. I'm just gonna get my hair into a ponytail thing here, so get yourself ready. And then bring your knees a little bit wider, maybe as wide as your mat, and we'll start to make some big circles. So stirring this yoga pot, moving all around your own little space, your own little universe. I'm aptly wearing my space pants for this. Move in the other direction when you're ready. And then just start to find any movements that feel good here in your body, that feel right. You don't have to worry about what it looks like. No one, literally no one's watching you. Then come back into your tabletop. From here, with the knees underneath your hips, we'll walk our hands forward, coming into Anahatasana, puppy pose. So tenting the fingers, feel an engagement of your lower arm bones. Forehead comes down toward the floor. Now, stay where you are, keep moving into your pose. I'm gonna sit up. Think about, and if you wanna just look at your screen while you're here, think about the bottom of your ribs and these bony hip points. There's just a little tiny suctioning of the two of them together. So it's just a little bit of engagement that happens in the belly. So you're not just kind of flopping your chest and your belly out to the floor. Once you feel that little bit of engagement, then see if you can draw your heart closer to the floor. So you're staying integrated and engaged, and then stretching, and then going deeper. Now from here, let's slide back onto our bellies. Stretch your legs out long. This time we'll take our hands right by our ribs, forehead to the mat. Loop the shoulders on the back. Feel the elbows tight by your side. Push the heart forward as you pull your hands back a little bit. Come into your baby cobra again. Maybe you feel ready to come up to upward facing dog if that's in your practice. From here, we'll shift back into tabletop. And we'll tuck our toes this time. And now when you tuck them, feel a little press of your heels out, just energetically, so that you feel your outer glutes turn on. From here, bring the knees up off the mat about 2 inches, 3 inches. Press into your hands, push them away from you as you rise your hips toward the sky. Coming into your downward facing dog. Begin to pedal your legs. So bending into one knee and the other. Maybe shake your head yes and no. Come back to stillness now. Feel the heels press out a little bit. When the heels press out, your inner thighs are rolling inward, and that's what you want. From here, inhale, roll forward. We'll come to high plank. So take a whole inhale to get there. Hips and heart in line. Feel that strength in your legs. Heart moving away from your hips. Bring the knees down to the mat. So you're almost back to your tabletop. From here, with your feet staying just where they are, you shift forward over your wrist. Keep your hips where they are. Bring your chest and your chin down. And then push yourself back up. Untuck the toes. Come into child's pose. Take a breath. I'm going to take a sip of water. On your next inhale, come back forward to your tabletop. Tuck your toes. Meet back in downward facing dog. Raise your right leg to the sky. Keep your hip dial down to start. And then on your next inhale, exhale, draw your right knee toward your right elbow. Inhale high. Across the body to the left. Inhale high. Now open the hips. Stack your hip. Keep growing long in your left side body. Bring your right leg down to meet the left. Downward facing dog. Roll forward, high plank. Drop the knees. Come back to that kind of mini tabletop. You'll shift forward. Keep the hips high. Down with the chin and chest. Push yourself back. Untuck the toes. Child's pose. Just for a breath. On your next inhale, come forward. Tuck your toes again. Press your way back. Downward facing dog. Left leg rises. Keep the left hip dialed down. Pressing into your hands. Belly is deep. Draw your left knee towards your left elbow. High to the sky. Left elbow across the body to your right. Inhale high. Open now, left hip. And then bring the left foot down to meet the right. Roll forward, high plank. Drop the knees, tabletop. Make sure your hips are right over your knees. Walk your fingers forward, come into puppy pose. Take a couple of breaths. See if you can find that engagement again between the hip points and the lower ribs. Just a little bit of engagement. Drop the heart a little bit more toward the floor. Slide forward onto your belly. You can come through Sphinx or hands in by your ribs. Come through your baby cobra or your upward facing. Tuck your toes, downward facing dog. Raise your right leg. Toes dial down. Cat arch your spine as you draw your right knee towards your nose and then step it gently through right on the inside of your right thumb. You can grab your blocks for this if you want, but we're going to be lowering the left knee down, pad if you need to. Sweep up, crescent lunge, Anjani Asana. Now, think about left hips going forward, right hips pulling back. Your legs are super strong, so your feet are pressing down and almost a little bit away, but your shins are coming in toward one another. So there's all these equal and opposites. So you're really strong in your legs. I can move around up here, but this is staying solid. On your next exhale, cactus the arms, open the heart toward the sky. Bring your hands just to rest on your right thigh for a moment. Take a couple of breaths. Keep staying strong in the legs. And then we'll bring the hands down with blocks or not on either side of your right foot. From here, straighten through the right leg, and you'll bring these hips back just so they're stacked over the knees. So sort of like when we were in Anahatasana. Right heel is into the mat. There's a little softness in your right knee, and you're pulling energetically that heel backward towards your hip. Ardha Hanumanasana, half monkey pose. Find a halfway lift so your heart can move away from your hips, grow a little longer, and then stretch down and over. Feel a big stretch in the back of your hamstring. Now from here, let's shift forward. I'm going to bring that back knee up. Bring your left hand, or if you're on the other side, your right hand, doesn't matter, you got two sides. Right arm to the sky now. Easy twist. Bring that right hand down on the inside of the right foot and start to walk halfway back on your mat. We'll come to a wide leg forward fold. So both toes, sets of toes, will be going in one direction off the side of your mat. Little softness in your knees, a little heel press out, find a halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold, keep the softness in the knees. Now we're going to Skandasana. If you practice Skandasana and you do really deep and you want to do it real deep right now, you can. Otherwise, I'm going to just demo. Just take a little bit of Skandasana here. So keep your feet where they are and just start to gently move from side to side. We have two sides, so we will be doing both. So just beginning to open up these adductors. If you've been sitting all day, you'll probably feel them. Come into the center again, find a halfway lift. Think about the heart moving away from the hips. And you're so strong here that you can lift your hands up and it's no big deal. Walk your way toward your opposite foot, so the back of your mat. In my case, it's my left foot, but it might look like you're right, I can't tell. From here, point the hands, step back, high plank. Drop the knees down. From here, shift forward, keep the hips high. We'll do that little chin, chest down, push up, push yourself back. Come into child's pose, toes tucked or not. Come forward back to your tabletop. If your toes aren't tucked, tuck them. Bring the hips high. Raise your left leg to the sky. Start to mad cat your spine as you pull that left knee in. Step your left foot towards your left thumb. Here you are, low runner's lunge. Drop the back knee down. And we'll sweep up, crescent lunge, Anjaneyasana. Now your left hip is pulling back, your right hip is pushing forward. Feet into the mat, feet pressing away, but shins pulling in. Lots of different cues. Maybe you cactus your arms, open up as you exhale. Bring your hands onto your left thigh. Find a nice tall spine again, but stay really solid in your legs. Really, really strengthen through the lower part of your body. And then the hands will come down on the inside of the left foot. From here, we'll bring the hips back over that right knee. Flex through your left toes. Heel into the mat. Softness in this left knee. Engage as you inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, heart moves away from the hips as you fold forward. On your next inhale, come forward, low runner's lunge. Right hand into the mat. Left arm will rise up. You'll stack that left shoulder, hand in line with your right shoulder in your right hand. One long line of energy. And then bring both hands to the inside of your left foot. We'll start walking again toward that wide leg forward fold. This time, come to halfway lift, and then turn your right toes out. We'll start to really Skandasana. So, pressing your right knee away, moving to the other side. Stay strong in these legs. Maybe you start to lift your arms up from side to side. Maybe you find balance. Lots of different options here. Maybe you go back to what we did in the first time, and you just do really gentle. Eventually come back to wide leg forward fold, time to halfway lift. So strong, heart away from your hips. Bring your hands to your hips. Shoulders on your back. See if you can turn your right toes back toward the front of the mat and then bring them down, frame your front foot. Optional vinyasa here. You might drop the knees, you might not. Shift forward. Come through your chaturanga. Through your upward facing or your cobra. Meet in downward facing dog. Tap the knees down, bring them wide, toes together. Come into child's pose. Take a moment to see where you are, to feel where you are. How does your body feel now that you've started moving? Does your mind feel a little clearer? We'll meet back in downward facing dog, but you might grab blocks if you have them toward the front of your mat. With the hips nice and high in your downward facing dog, soften your knees a little bit, send the hips a little higher, and then walk your feet toward the front of your mat. Feet are about hips with distance. Come into halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold, root to rise, sweep all the way up to the sky. Hands to heart center. Try to take that hyperextension that I have out of your legs. Inhale, sweep up. Exhale, bring your hands down. Find your halfway lift. Inhale. Exhale, plant your hands, grab onto your blocks, step back with your left foot. You're in a low runner's lunge. Now, you're going to stay strong here still, and you're still going to be pulling that right hip back, left hip forward. Inhale here in your lunge. Exhale, let's pulse between the two. So we'll come into a straight leg. Inhale forward. Exhale back. Inhale forward. Find yourself in the moving meditation. So that's really what this is about, putting away everything else and just moving and letting the mind clear. Come forward into the low runner's lunge. Adjust your feet. Make sure that they're on railroad tracks. We'll sweep all the way up, high crescent. Right hip pulls back, left pushes a little bit forward. Just for a moment. Keep a little buoyancy in that back leg. And then straighten through your right leg as you come down. We'll come back to Parsvottanasana. So your toes might come up, but you're still feeling that same digging in as you do in half Hanuman. Shift forward, low runner's lunge. Move your blocks to the side. Step back, high plank. Right hand comes to the middle of your mat. Roll to the outer edge of your right foot. Bring your left arm to stack over into Vasisthasana. Now take that left foot and step it about halfway up your mat. From here, reach your left hand up and over. Make this big rainbow with your side body. Exhale, coming down. Your right foot is really flexed. Inhale, up and over. Exhale, down. Inhale, up and over. Bring that left hand onto the mat. Step back, high plank. Drop the knees. Shift forward. Bring the chin and chest down. Press back. Keep the toes tucked this time in your child's pose. Now from here, make sure the hands are planted really nicely. You're just going to push your way into high plank. And then come back up, downward facing dog. From here, start to walk your feet forward toward the front of your mat. Feet end up about hips width distance. Find a halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, sweep all the way up. Exhale, hands come to heart center. Inhale, sweep up. Exhale, all the way down. Hands come to your blocks again, maybe. This time, left foot will plant. Right foot steps back. Low runner's lunge. Get yourself so you're on those railroad tracks. Inhale forward in your lunge. Exhale, straighten through your left leg. Pull the left hip back. Inhale, come forward. Exhale, back. Inhale, forward. Again, here you are, finding yourself in the movement, letting it be your meditation. Come back to your low runner's lunge. Adjust your feet how you need to. From here, we're scooping the hips under and up as we come into our high crescent. Left hip pulls back, right hip pulls forward. Strong in the legs, same thing. Your feet are pressing down and away. Your shins are pulling together. Now straightening through your front leg as you hinge at the hips. Come back to your Parsvottanasana. You can pull those left toes up. Find a softness in the left knee. I'm just going to switch sides so I can face you. From here, move the blocks to the side. Hands plant, step back, high plank. Left hand to the inside of your mat. Rolling to your left side or your right, whichever one. Coming into side plank and then step your top foot halfway up your mat. Top arm, my right arm, comes up and over. Inhale. Your left foot's really flexed, or whatever foot's at the back of your mat, or rather the front. Inhale, up and over. See, it's so confusing. No fronts, no backs, no sides. Inhale, up and over. Exhale, down. One more time. We'll inhale, sweep up and over. Bring the right hand next to the left. Step back. This time, optional vinyasa if you want to move through chaturanga. Come through your upward facing or cobra. And let's come back into child's pose again. So bring the hips back, knees wide, toes together. Take a couple of breaths. And let's just rock that third eye from side to side again. Maybe even turn the palms of your hands up. So coming back to that place of offering, and maybe that intention or that question of, what can I offer? What can I offer during this time? And when you're ready, we'll meet back in downward facing dog. So from here, let's raise the right leg high to the sky. Bend into the right knee, open the right hip on top of the left. Keep growing long in your left side body, so you're not collapsing that side, but rather staying long. Right knee comes towards your right elbow. Step your right foot to the outside of your right hand. Give that left foot a little shimmy back so you're in a lizard lunge. Stay in your active lizard for a moment and just take a moment to scan your body. Feel where you're holding a lot of the strength. This is very strong in the legs. From here, you can shimmy now that left foot back a little bit and bring that left knee down. So you might have some blocks nearby. We're going to take a little pulse here, back and forth. So your hands might come to your blocks to give yourself a little bit more space, or they can stay on the floor. We'll inhale, push the heart forward. I like to keep my toes tucked during this, my back toes, just because it helps protect your knee. You get a little bit more out of control with your foot flat like this, so keep the back toes tucked. From here, we'll straighten again. We're going back to Ardha Hanuman, but you have a wider variation in your leg, so it feels a little different. You don't want to hyperextend that knee. Shift forward. Now we're going to pulse like we did with Parsvottanasana, and then coming back. Moving forward and back. And again, this becomes its own meditation. Inhale forward, exhale back. Stopping along the way if anything feels tight. You know your body best. We'll come to stop again now in a resting lizard. You might take blocks underneath your elbows. I'll just switch my legs so you can see what I'm doing. And you might come down onto your elbows onto blocks. Now here you can untuck those back toes if that's comfortable. If you don't have blocks, you can stay up on hands. If you have really open hips, you can come all the way down. Wherever you are, keep thinking about moving the heart away from your hips so you're staying nice and long in your spine. Take a couple of breaths here. Close your eyes, maybe drop your chin. If that doesn't feel good in the back of your neck, then don't. Yoga has a lot of choices. And again, like I said, you know your body best. I'm just going to switch legs again. Come back up into your resting lizard with your hands into the mat, or you could have your hand on a block here if you want. We'll go for the twist. So your left hand into the floor. Try not to lock up that elbow. Grow long in your spine. Start to twist. And you can press this right thigh away from you a little bit. You don't want to just kind of like let it fall out to the side, but you can feel a little bit of a press so that you can twist a little bit more. If you practice the bind and want the quad stretch, you can reach back for your ankle or your foot. Maybe you don't make the connection and you use a strap, and over time that connection comes. If you don't have a strap, you can just start to play around with how this feels to stretch through this thigh muscle, your quads. Keep growing long in your spine. And then let's come back down, and I'm gonna have you guys, you can tuck your back toes here, just to give yourself a little space. You're gonna walk your right foot towards your left hand. We're coming into half pigeon on the right side. So, if this is terrible, you can always come onto your back in a figure four. If it's not terrible, we wanna avoid kind of just sitting on top of our leg like this. It doesn't really do much. So, without sickling that right foot, you want to have your right knee out to the side, wider than your hip. And then you might take blocks, if you have blocks, underneath. I have this cool bolster that my mom made me with some extra fabric I had. Very nice of her. You might come down on a bolster or some pillows or whatever you got. And then your forehead can come down as well. Now, if your right hip or your left hip, whichever side you are on, is way up off the mat, maybe a block, maybe a blanket, maybe something underneath there. The idea being that using whatever you have as props, whether in a yoga studio or at home, to help support you, to help let your body relax and open, because you're not going to relax and open if you feel stressed and in this position that you feel very vulnerable and uncomfortable. So do what you can do to make that feeling go away. And just take a couple of breaths here in this space. Sometimes the poses that seem to evade us most or cause us the most chittavriti, which are your mind fluctuations, those poses can become our allies over time. They teach us what we're avoiding. They teach us what we are attaching to in some ways sometimes too. Things that we get attached to, ideas of things that we're even just turning our noses up at, you know? Right now where are we with the moon? All the days are just moving together. We're going to be approaching the full moon. We're still waxing. We're past the first quarter. So during a waxing phase of the moon, we're really kind of focusing on our intentions and energy building and things that we're working toward. So that kind of dovetails nicely with the idea of what am I offering? What can I offer for the greater good right now? Let's start to come back up to proud pigeon. We'll tuck the back toes, bring the hands into the mat, and then pull that right knee in toward your chest. So you come to three-legged plank. Send the right leg high. Give it a little stretch. Maybe you open the hip again and rotate through your ankle. And then bring your right foot down next to your left. Raise the left leg. Stack the hip, open up. Keep stretching long in your right side body. And then we'll bring that left foot to the outside of your left hand. Come into your active lizard to start. So super long in the legs, long in the spine, heart and hips moving in opposite directions. And then give a little shimmy to that right foot, bring the right knee down in the back, or left if you're on the other side. Again, don't worry too much about which side you're on. From here, with hands on blocks or on the floor, inhale as you press your heart forward. Keep the back toes tucked. Straighten out through your front leg. Inhale, forward. Exhale, straighten. Inhale, forward. Exhale, straighten. Pausing anywhere you want along here. I'm just cueing the breath. But you can stop anywhere you need to. Eventually we'll meet back into this resting lizard. Your right hand will come into the mat. You'll feel a little bit of that outer rotation, so the elbow's coming forward, but there's a softness. And then your left hand can come the inside of the left thigh, and just use that to help straighten and lengthen through your spine and find the twist. Now you might bend into the back leg, you might reach it. You can always kind of lean back this way to reach it and come forward. That's a little bit of a cheat, but only going there if that feels okay. If this hurts, do not do it. So you might just be bending and straightening this leg to see what that feels like, see what that does in your quad. Over time, you might make contact. And then bring that left hand back. Oh, we forgot to do our resting lizard. So that's okay. We're still here. So from here, you can untuck your back toes and maybe you bring your forearms down onto the mat. I'll switch legs so you can see. Or onto blocks, onto pillows, onto books, onto your dog, whatever you got. Keep growing long in your spine, heart away from the hips. Always finding length in the side bodies. And then we'll come back up to our resting lizard and we'll walk that left foot over towards your left hand, coming into your half pigeon on the other side. Once again, just making sure that your knee is wider than your hip. Find wherever you're going to go with this. Maybe you stay upright, maybe you come down onto forearms, maybe you're all the way down, maybe you're like, hell no, this is not working for me, and you come into figure four in your back. If you're in figure four, make sure both of your feet are nice and flexed. And again, just come back to your breath, come back to feeling supported, so using the props in a way that makes you feel supported. That's important. And that's just so important right now with what we're all going through collectively as the collective consciousness, you know, is feeling supported. And sure, we look outward and we want other people to support us, but really what's so much more important right now is learning how to support ourselves. We can't be there for anybody else unless we can support ourselves and to be our own best advocates, to care for our own health, all that kind of stuff, so that when somebody really does need our help, we can be there. We'll take a few more breaths in this nice pigeon pose. Time flies in these pasas. So let's bring your hands into the mat, tuck the back toes, pull the knee in toward the chest, left knee maybe if it is for you, and then send that leg high, open up, and then bring your left foot down to meet the right. Take a couple of breaths here in your downward facing dog. We are going to transition onto our backs, so you can just get there however you want. You might choose to walk or jump toward the front of your mat, whichever way you're facing, and then just sit down and come all the way down. Pull your knees in towards your belly. Maybe a little rock side to side. And actually, let's bring our hands to our knees and just make some nice circles in one direction and then in the other. A little low back massage. And let's take our feet into the mat about hips width distance. And I want you guys to think about your hip points, your knees, and your ankles all staying in one nice line. So they're super parallel. Those knees don't go to the side, they stay parallel to one another. So with your knees kind of over your ankles, thereabouts, your arms can come down by your side. Feel that outer heel press, and then press the feet into the mat as you rise your hips up just a little bit, and then a little bit higher, coming into Setu Bandhasana, bridge pose. Now from here, release your glutes by about half so that you're not squeezing them super tight. You're using your belly and your low back. Lift the hips a little higher. Now think about your knees moving away from you. So you're lengthening through your long leg bones. Keep the chin away from the chest, back of the head into the mat. You can bring the arms out to the side if you want. If you want to go a little deeper, you can walk your shoulder blades underneath you, so puff the heart up further toward the sky. You're really active in your core here. You should be active in your core the entire time in a yoga practice, unless, you know, it's a really relaxation pose. That's one of the greatest side effects of a yoga practice is a strong core. It just naturally comes if you're engaging those muscles. From here, let's bring the hips all the way down. You can come down one vertebrae at a time if you'd like. And then bring your feet about as wide as your mat and start to rock your knees from side to side with nice wide legs here. Feels really good in the sacrum. And keep that belly engaged. So the belly is sort of driving the action. Think about the belly button being anchored through your spine and into the floor. So that doesn't move. But your knees move, the hips get to move a little bit. And then let's come, if you have a block, you can use a block here. If you don't, that's okay. You can put a pillow underneath you. What we're going to do is lift the hips up and bring a block or a pillow right underneath your sacrum. So not the tailbone, not the low back, but the place in between, the sacrum. It's a flat bone, kind of right underneath where your pant line is. And we'll just bring our legs up. It's a nice, easy inversion. If you practice shoulder stand or plow or do anything else, you're more than welcome to take your, whatever it is that suits you. But let's come into this pose for a couple rounds of breath. Let the feet relax. Let the legs relax. Let everything flow in the other direction. You can wiggle your your toes. Move your ankles a little bit before you come into stillness, just to give your feetsies a little love. This pose helps calm the entire nervous system. It improves your mood. If you're feeling wired before you go to bed, bring your legs up the wall for a few minutes. Just hang out. If you're feeling stressed about everything going on, come back to this and then just tell yourself, breathe in, breathe out. Gratitude for the air and for our lungs, especially now. Just pull the knees into the chest, bring the feet into the floor. Let me just do a little time check. Let's bring the soles of the feet together and the knees wide. And again, you could use blocks, you can use a bolster along your spine if that's something that you have, a pillow, anything to maybe get the heart to open a little bit more and a little bit higher than it would if it was flat. If it's flat, that's okay too. So let's come into the Supta Baddha Konasana. I'm going to sit up, but keep yourself where you are. Push all your phones and everything away so you can start to really come into your meditation now. That's another thing that's very hard with a home practice, is that we get distracted by everything when we're in the studio. You know, your phone, your life, everything stays outside of where we're practicing. So really being disciplined with ourselves for our home practices, our home workouts, whatever it might be. It's a new place that we're all navigating and trying to figure out, you know. So don't be hard on yourself if you find yourself getting distracted. I know I do myself sometimes when I'm participating in a class on my iPad, a bunch of text messages pop up, you know, but trying to compartmentalize a little bit more. Let's bring the knees back together. Pull them in towards your chest. One more time. Give yourself a nice big squeeze. And then bring your feet back into the mat. We'll come back to that about as wide as the mat. And from here, press the feet in. Bump your hips over to one side. Doesn't matter which one. And then the knees will fall to the other for a nice spinal twist. Now you can keep the legs apart. If this doesn't feel good, you can always stack your knees. And we'll come into a twist on one side just for a few breaths to sort of reset the spine before Shavasana. And let's bring the low back to the floor again. Feet come as wide as the mat. Just come back to neutral. Bump the hips over to the other side. Let the knees fall the direction that they didn't. Knees apart or stacked, whichever feels good. And come back to center, bring the low back to the floor again. And we'll set up for Shavasana. You might take a pillow or a bolster or something of the sort underneath your knees, especially if you have a sensitive low back. And then laying yourself down, taking up lots of space. Let the feet just sort of fall out. Wiggle around as much as you need to in order to find a place of comfort. You can put a sweatshirt on or socks or anything that you might need here. And then start with the top of your head. As you close your eyes and let your eyes sort of roll up toward the third eye, imagine that there is a pinpoint of light at your crown. And that light begins to grow. And as it grows, it begins to envelop all down the sides of your head and your face. And as it does so, it warms you. It makes you feel as safe and as supported as you've ever felt. And notice as that light and that warmth expands down toward your chin, over the front of the face, the third eye, down, all the way into the throat, opening up your throat chakra. You might even start to visualize some of the colors coming in and mixing with that white light, so the purples and the blues of the upper chakras. From there, watch, notice, feel as the light expands down further into the heart center, out toward the shoulders and down the arms toward the fingertips. Perhaps the color green mixing in with that white light. Tendrils of the heart offering, reaching, connecting even when we physically cannot. Sense the warmth of the white light as it expands now down through your belly, right into your center of power, Manipura, your third chakra, the color yellow perhaps coming in and mixing around, feeling the strength, knowing that you have the resolve to get through the moments. That's really where we're at, is moment by moment. Feel as the light and that warmth, that white, vivid, bright light moves further down into your sacrum and into your root chakras. So the colors orange and red, this connection to the earth, connection to sort of the primal need to survive. Feel as the white light expands down your thighs, your knee, your shins, all the way to your toes. Till finally you are bathed in white light, colors of the chakras maybe mixing in around you. And you're in this pool of light and warmth and safety, little cocoon. Maybe that white light is coming from the moon. Whatever it's coming from, it's making you feel calm. It's making you feel resolve. And let yourself float in your Shavasana. Here, start to take a bigger breath in. Full and complete. And a long exhale. Wiggle your fingers, your toes. Eventually coming into a full body stretch. Long on your mat, moving from this place of rest and just beginning to stir a little bit again. Eventually rolling over to one side, come to the fetal pose, pose of new beginnings, of renewal, of resurrection. Beginning of a new cycle. So with our lunar practice, we often are tracking the cycle of the moon, but cycles are everywhere. When you're ready, come up to a comfortable seated position. You might come back to a kneeling pose, or you might come to Sukhasana, a little easy seat. And just be mindful of stacking the shoulders again over the hips. Have a nice long spine. And let's come back to Pushpanjali. So we'll bring the hands as offering and close your eyes again and think about potentially that intention that you had at the beginning of class. Maybe it's changed. Maybe you have a new intention. But coming back to that question of asking oneself and being curious about what can I offer? What is it that I can offer during this time? Not only to others, but what can you offer to yourself to keep yourself feeling healthy and strong? Imagine yourself putting maybe an answer, maybe an intention, maybe just a thought or word into your hands, bringing the hands together and pulling in towards your chest, Anjali Mudra. We'll take the thumb knuckles up to the third eye, bring the elbows wide, heart to the sky. And bow forward together in Sangha. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you all for joining me this evening. If you want to donate, it's Venmo Chrissy Vaccaro 13. If you you can also donate directly to the studio, the Moon and the Mat. We are trying to bring you as many classes as we can from all the different teachers. Kathleen will be teaching on this page on Saturday morning for morning practice, so tune in for that. On Sunday at noon, I'm going to do a rock and roll brunch yoga, and I do those at Notch a lot, so we're going to just do it from home, and it's going to be dark wave, so The Cure and Depeche Mode and bands like that, so I'll have a playlist that you can listen to, and then you can just do some yoga, maybe get your brunch set up, and then you can get on a call with some friends and have brunch virtually. So that's sort of what I'm thinking I'm going to do. But thank you all for joining me, and I hope you have a lovely evening. Drink lots of water, and just, stay sane, keep breathing, keep doing the yoga, and I'll see you guys soon, all right? Bye.